So, welcome back to another episode of the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast with me, Nick, and my mate Dom, as usual, as co-hosts. On this episode, which is actually episode 48, we're talking about things that are respectful, intriguing, and fill the column of what the really, because there's always something to talk about, and we made a list of things that we've observed over recent weeks. Those who listened to episode 47 last week, they were the things that annoyed us. It was quite heavy on VAR referee decisions and various other things. So this is a bit more upbeat, a bit more lively, and a bit more intriguing. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to my mate Dom, as ever. We'll do the shirt thing we always do on YouTube. I really couldn't be asked today, mate, so I've just worn a Borough merchandise t-shirt. But yours is a follow-on from the World Cup episode that we did, episode 45, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What's the shirt about there, mate? T-shirt's lovely.
Espana 82, Naranjito, the mascot.
Nice.
So again, it'll be one I'm wearing when I go to America in a week's time. I'll be wearing this and any other one I can get my hands on, of which I've got a few, apart from USA 94 or USA 2026. But also, mate, this was the first World Cup that I was old enough to really fully appreciate. I don't really remember 78, I was 5. 82,
Yeah.
I was 9. And I still hold that World Cup in really high regard. It was magical for me. England
Yeah.
weren't great, but Brazil and Italy were astonishing, and
Yeah.
just a brilliant World Cup. And also, when you're that age, you just soak it all up and just enjoy what an amazing occasion it was. And the mascot is a pretty good one. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Good stuff. Nice
Yeah.
shirt, mate. And enjoy wearing it in America, and enjoy telling people you couldn't give a shit about USA 94 or America, Canada, and Mexico 2026. Right. Let's talk about things that we respect and should be respected in football, and then we'll get onto some intriguing stuff, and then we'll get onto my list of why and what whatever. Okay. Last week's
Yeah.
episode was quite heavily parental controls. We might have to control ourselves a little bit on this one.
Yeah.
It's less controversial. I
Yeah.
want to start. I want to start with just a remembrance. Really, it's 41 years this month since the Bradford fire. 56 people lost their lives at a football match. It was the same year as Heysel, at which 39 people died. And, we need to keep remembering these things and remembering that football used to be a very different place, and be grateful that football's changed so much for the better. I watched the Bradford fire occur live on a news feed. It was horrific. And I obviously watched the European Cup final as that transpired at Heysel, and you're watching it and you're thinking, terrible hooliganism, but you didn't know what had gone on behind the scenes as well. So I've just a moment of respect for those two, really real tragedies that happened 41 years ago, and this month really, and a lot of people went to a football match and didn't come back, and that should never happen, should it, mate?
I completely agree. I was at a football match that day. You caught me on the hop there. I don't remember where I was at, but I know I was at a football match because I remember on my way home it being on the radio and listening to it avidly. We didn't know about it while we were at the football match. Different times where things weren't relayed as quickly as they are now.
Yeah.
Um, I watched that again recently on TV. I remember Gabby Logan being on it as well, talking because her dad was manager at the time, and
He was.
everything about it, and just the graphic footage of it, and it really is extremely sobering as well, isn't it? That for all that time, just the fact that people were sat there for so long on these wooden benches and not even realising there was a fire underneath, but just how quickly. I think what really struck me is, and I think these are that, like you were saying, how football's moved on in terms of just infrastructure, stadiums, safety. We can't sometimes take that for granted enough, and how much it's improved, because back then, even though football was happier times and a bit simpler, we can sometimes look at it in rose tinted glasses at just how terrible some of the stadia were and how old they were. And a pertinent point you made as well. I mean, the Heysel Stadium was an appalling stadium. It was literally falling to bits. And, on that subject, I live on Merseyside, and I really, really despise when Evertonians, start talking to, about Liverpool fans as being murderers and stuff like that. I never really want to hear that. It's childish, it's petty. Yes, there was hooliganism. Yes, there was people in the wrong that day. We all know about that they were. But also, people seem to forget sometimes that back in 1985, fans of all clubs were doing that kind of thing. It
Yeah,
wasn't just exclusive to Liverpool. But the
no,
pertinent thing that really killed those fans, sadly, was the state of the stadium.
yeah,
Let's make no bones about it. And, in modern football now, Heysel Stadium wouldn't come close to hosting a European Cup final, never mind a football match, full stop.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you on the Bradford. I've seen quite a lot of tributes this week, and rightly so. It was a very sobering thing,
Mm.
and no one ever wants to see that at a football match ever.
No, let's move on and pay our due respects as we have. I
Yeah,
think it's,
absolutely.
like you said, no one should ever go to a football match and not come back. And
No,
tragically, that year was horrific for
was.
on both occasions, and there's been others as well. So let's talk about respect. Let's talk about Bolton Wanderers. Bolton Wanderers have played their first leg of their League One playoff semi-final at home to Bradford City, which they won 1-0 with a hell of a goal, by the way. The
It,
young lad, he's a
it
great
was.
little.
Yeah,
By the way, if they don't come up, I quite like him. I'd give him a little go.
yeah.
But Bolton only charge Bradford City fans £20 per adult and £10 per child for their home leg of the League One playoff semi-final. And you know what? I think that's great. Well done to Bolton. And I think Bradford have returned the favour. You shouldn't be paying more than £20 for a game of football. And you shouldn't be paying more than £10 for a kid. And it created a brilliant atmosphere. I think Bradford would have sold out if they charged him 50 quid and 40 quid for kids, and it's still sold out. But it's not the point. Bolton Wanderers did not decide to lift the leg of their away fans and take the piss on ticket prices. So I just doff my cap to them if I had a cap on today, mate.
I again wholeheartedly agree. A playoff semi-final. Clubs could decide. Do you know what? We're going to have a demand here. We could easily charge whatever we want, but they didn't. And what I like about Bolton is they also have a significant respect of the fact that they've been through some hard times, and there's been a really good loyal fan base that have stuck with them, and
Yeah,
they're embracing the fact that this is a celebratory moment and they want people in the door, and that's the way to do it. And I've always found Bradford to be quite classy, to be honest. And the fact that they return the favour, I'd expect nothing less, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah.
I've been to a couple of games up there, just brilliant, great atmosphere, great banter, good people. That's what you want from football, mate. It's just, yeah, exactly that. And I think you've hit the nail on the head for me. You charge affordable prices, you get people in the door, you get a great atmosphere, and people
Yeah.
don't feel like they've been, you know,
Ripped off.
extracted from. They feel like they've been part of the equation, and
Yeah.
it's meant something to them. So yeah, great shout.
The other thing I'd say, as we speak, it's 20-7 on, well, actually, it's 20-8 on Thursday, the 14th of May. Stockport got through last night.
Yeah,
Played really well. Great goal by Louis Barry.
yeah,
And so you got Stockport, Bradford City, or Bolton. Any one of those would add enhancement to the championship next season. So I wish them all luck on that basis. And for me, because I've not been to Stockport before, I'd like Stockport to come up so I can take a ground off. Assuming that at this point Borough are still in the championship next season, we're not even going to open that can of worms. So
well, yeah, it's interesting that, but I think I've mentioned before. I do have a very big soft spot for Stockport. When I lived in Manchester, particularly my first year in Halls, I was right on the doorstep of Stockport. Used to go there quite a lot. Used to go to uh, some pubs and stuff, and I obviously wanted to go always follow the football when I was away from home. I used to go to Edgeley Park a lot. Brilliant atmosphere, great people, great fans, and again, a club that's been through the mire over the last 10, 15 years and really
yeah,
fell away and experienced some hard times. And I have nothing but love for Stockport. I've had some really good times there as a neutral watching football. Been many times, and I always, they're one of those clubs. I always look out for and check their results.
Yeah,
And I think you summed it up perfectly. I think there'd be a credit to the Championship. I think they do a really good job. And yeah, I'll happily come with you to Stockport next season if they come up.
excellent.
It's a really good away day. And I actually went there as well when as an away fan for Middlesbrough. I think it was the '97 season when Merson was there when we were, and it was just a brilliant, brilliant
Yeah,
game. I can't remember the result, to be honest, but it was nice being there as an away fan because I used to just go and stand in the home end and watch them all the time. But yeah, completely agree.
okay,
Having
good
said
stuff.
that, though, out of all those teams, don't mind who goes up. To be honest,
I don't. They're all worthy of a championship place.
agreed.
Good fan base, good history.
Yeah.
Let's add to the excitement of the championship, and I'm looking forward to Lincoln City joining that as well.
Yes.
Not so much
Yeah.
Cardiff. Cardiff are too far away, and they're a bit for me. Not really. They're a bit of a non-entity to me. Cardiff. I'm sorry. They're not a big club. They think they are, and it's just too far away for away games most often. So I'm definitely looking forward to Lincoln, and then one of those three. On the subject of respect, on the subject of geography, we've been pretty northern heavy. I'm going to stay with northern heaviness. Do you see the story about Brighouse Town the other day?
Oh, I did, and I respect it massively, massively. It's a really brave, bold decision to make, but I
Can
think
I
it's
can I read the story out for those who don't know? I
yes.
wasn't
Please
because I
do,
didn't
mate.
I didn't
Yes,
I didn't discuss it with you off air. I
you
didn't know whether
didn't.
you'd seen it or not. So Brighouse Town have made a voluntary decision to step down from step 4 to step 7 of the non-league football pyramid. Okay. It's also a reflection of the reality that many clubs are now facing, and their position is honest, realistic, and difficult to argue with. They've cited spiralling player wages, increased travel costs, ground and infrastructure demands, growing administrative pressure, and loss of experienced leadership. These are not issues unique to Brighouse Town. They're affecting clubs across the non-league pyramid, and for over a decade, Brighouse have competed at the level many consider above their natural size and resources. And to sustain Step 4 football for that length of time deserves huge credit. Many clubs reach those heights, very few remain there for 12 years. And what stands out from their statement is the focus on sustainability and protecting the wider club for the future generations as custodians of
Yeah,
that brand and that club. So you know what? I'm going to say that takes courage to drop down 3 levels when you've been in that level for 12 seasons and say, this is not about Brighouse Town today. This is about the future of Brighouse Town as a club, as an entity, as a community asset. And you know what? I'm going to take my hat off to them and say, well done if that's what it takes to keep you going as the heart of your community. Well done, Brighouse Town. Sorry, I spoke over you. I didn't know if you'd seen it
no,
or not.
no. I'm glad you did because you gave the context for people who may not be aware of it, mate. So yeah, happy with that. I completely agree. When I read this, I was in absolute. I mean it genuinely. In absolute admiration because it is a really brave decision, but it's also a really clever, sensible decision as well. Because I read it and thought the wider connotations here are. I think they were referencing it more about how non-league clubs need to operate, but I was looking at it genuinely thinking, I think all clubs need to pay attention to this. I mean, just look at you go back to the pod we did on the EFL clubs and the debt they're all in. I'm not saying the EFL clubs and Championship clubs need to turn around and say, hang on, we want to go down the National League. But what Brighouse have done is they're also raising an alarm bell to say how we're operating and the current market conditions are not sustainable.
Yeah,
So it's trying to say that when you get to a certain level, it's just impossible to compete and sustain because, and we touched on it in that pod we did. I can't remember what episode it was. And that you mentioned it there in the article. One of the key bits is player wages.
yeah,
As soon as you start stepping up, players want more money. Things cost more, and it just puts so much financial pressure. And I really like the fact that Brighouse have actually recognised and acted on the fact that they realise that they are, you know, at the heart of their community. That's what they are. That's what football clubs are. How many times have
yeah,
we said, whether you're a whether you're Man United or you're Brighouse Town, ultimately you are still a community club for your
Yeah.
community. And I
Mm.
think that's where a lot of clubs have really forgotten themselves over the last 10, 15, 20 years. So
Mm.
the fact that they've done this because they want to protect their future, stay in business, be a football club, it'll really put them more in touch with their fan base and resonate more. And I think their fan base will applaud it and come out in numbers to support them.
You know, when we did our non-league special early in last at the start of
Yeah,
the season,
yeah,
when it was the non-league weekend, and you went to
yeah.
two non-league matches, didn't you? That weekend. Um, I think you and I should go to Brighouse Town on whoever they're playing. Hopefully
Yeah.
at home. If they're
Yes.
at home, the next non-league weekend, when you know the God forbidden international break comes around, you and I should try and get to the Brighouse and maybe do a bit of a podcast from
I
there.
would
Because
love to. Do you know what? I will bookmark that and make a note of it. We will do that. And
yeah,
yes, I think that's a great show because that
excellent.
deserves recognition. Just
It does.
talking to their fans, see what they think about it, and just publicize it more like we're doing now. But yeah, I think you are clearly the same because you've raised it, and the thing is, we didn't speak about this off air. We both had the same thought about it, and
Yeah,
you know, I'd be sad to think that some fans might look at that as negative and like, oh, what are you doing that for? I didn't
no,
look at it. I never once looked like that. I instantly thought that's brilliant.
great. Yeah,
That's protecting. That's protecting them as a club.
it is. It is, and it's interesting when you said about their five reasons for doing it. Number one was aspiring player wages. Number two was increased travel costs because obviously you're playing nationally.
Yeah,
You're playing in Devon and you're playing in Kent and you're playing in
yeah.
whatever. I'm assuming I don't know enough about the pyramid, but the step seven is probably much more regionalised and therefore
It will
more
be.
manageable. So
Yes,
yeah, that's good.
absolutely.
So that's respectful. And I've got another respectful thing as well. For those who don't know, Union Berlin, who are a Bundesliga team, have been for about 5 seasons
Yeah.
and actually established themselves pretty well. They've had a bit of a struggle this season. They've been flirting with relegation and they've been in the bottom four. And they appointed 5 weeks ago their first ever female coach in a European top five division, Marie Louise Etter. She lost her first two games, including a big 6 point relegation battle against Wolfsburg. And
Yeah, she did.
immediately, people are going, oh, bloody woman, yeah, whatever.
Second game in. I mean, come
Say,
on.
I know.
Yeah.
But since then, she's drawn and she's won. She won at the weekend and secured their status in the Bundesliga for next season. She had a smile from ear to ear on the highlight show. So I hope she does well. And the question I've got that goes with that, it's a very brave decision for Union Berlin. She's been a backroom coach, staff member for a long time, I believe. And the natural progression was, if that had been a bloke, it wouldn't have been a question. So why should it be a question because she happens to be, Marie Louisa Etta? Um, Serena Wiegman to an English club at some point in the future, managing in the English Championship or Premier Leagues, is that a likelihood? Someone with her pedigree, would you say? Or even, what do they call the woman who's at Chelsea, who's in charge of America now? What's her, I can't,
Oh.
yeah,
Is
mental.
it Emma
Emma
Hayes?
Emma Hayes, yeah. What's the likelihood of an English club following suit? What do you think? I just thought it was interesting that Union Berlin have done it. It was the right thing to do for them anyway. And actually, she's in 4 games. She's got 4 points and she's kept them up. So she's ticked the box and achieved her first immediate objective. Thoughts
Well,
on someone like Serena Wiegman or Emma Hayes?
so I'll go back to Union Berlin and that appointment. And I'm not just saying this because we do a pod and we're, trying to get likes and whatever, because we're not. Me and you speak our mind whether people like it or not. I genuinely mean this. And you're the same as me because you've got a daughter. I've got two girls.
Mm.
So I live in a household with my wife and two girls. So it's predominantly female. And do you know what? I've said it a long time. You know, the way females operate is far more effective than the male side of the species of human beings. And I am,
Controversial. Controversial.
yeah, and I am all for the progression of women in any environment, whether it be sport or anywhere. And I have to say hats off to Union Berlin. It doesn't surprise me that they were the ones that did it because they're
No.
ahead of the curve on everything. I just love everything they do. They're completely fan centric. They're all about their fans. They're owned by their fans. Their fans physically built their stadium,
Yeah.
physically built it.
I know.
They properly support their club. They know what the meaning of the word support is. If I haven't been to a game. I would love to go to a game, and I think me and you will try and get to one
Oh,
at
hang on,
some
hang
point.
on. We have seen Union Berlin away
We have.
at Dortmund, and that was the guy. Their fans were brilliant, but for those who've not,
Yeah.
we've not shared this story before. We were in the mixed zone next to the away zone. The
We
away
were.
zone is fenced off from the mixed zone, and in the steps for the away zone, there was a young lad. He can't have been more than 18, maximum 20.
Oh,
Um, it was about 2 hours before kickoff. He was sat on the steps, clearly off his head on drink, drugs, combination of
whatever.
both,
Yeah.
whatever. And he sat with his head in between his knees, just completely out of it. And we thought, well, he's not going to see a minute of the game. And then just the funniest part of it was he just projectile vomited all over himself, didn't he? And it was so close to us. It was
Yeah.
gross. It was
And
absolutely
it
disgusting.
was. And then he
But that was
finally got.
Union Berlin fans away
He
from
was.
home.
But in fairness to them, it was one solitary fan. The rest were superb. And
Yeah,
he got escorted out, didn't he? And he was there clinging on to the stewards for dear life. But um, when it was done, I just thought that is typical Union Berlin.
yeah,
They
yeah. It
don't they
is.
don't they don't conform to what everyone else does. They do what they want, but not because they think they're trying to, you know, create a news article or make a scene. They do it because it's right and they
Yeah,
feel it's right. Let's put it out there, everyone. Union Berlin are in the Bundesliga. They're not going to want to jeopardize that. So they're not just trying to make a statement. They're
no,
not doing it as a gimmick. They're doing it because they believe she's the right choice and the strongest
yeah,
candidate. And I respect them massively for that. And to your second point, I think me and you briefly discussed this just at a match. I really like Wiegman. I think she's a really good character. I think she's one of those that is so strong-minded and so vehement in what she does. Whether you like it or not, it would be hard to argue that what she does is not right. And I'd briefly touch on, and I don't know a lot of the intricacies of this, but when Mary Earps released that book and kind of like had a go at her and stuff and was criticising and how she brought the second string keeper back into the floor. I can't remember her name,
yeah,
but she ended up having a glorious tournament and they won the Euros again. I'm not saying that I don't know a lot of whether anything in the background is right, wrong, or whatever, but as a manager of a team and you're going on what you feel is best and who's going to perform the best and everything else, it'd be hard to argue that she wasn't on the money there. And she
yeah.
seems like the kind of person that would probably be able to handle a male dressing room. I'm not one of these. I have to say that I'll put it out there. I do find the women's game very different to the men's game,
Yeah,
and I like them both on for different reasons. I really love the women's game that they don't do any of the kind of rolling around play acting that they do in the. They just get on with it and just play football, which I love. It's just like no nonsense, no fucking around, no rolling around like you've been shot. I hate all that, and the women's game doesn't have any of it, and it's all the better for it. But sometimes the tempo of how the men's game is played, different things about the men's game, I kind of look at them and respect them in equal merit, but just watch them and enjoy them in different ways. I
but
find the women's game.
they're
Go on,
not the
mate. Sorry,
same. They're not the same game, though, are they? I
they're
mean,
not the
like
same game. No, they're
you get
not.
you get people going, "Oh, women's football, shit, it's not the same as men's football." Well, that's the
Well,
point. It's not.
that's the point. It's
Women's
not
football's women's football. Men's
men's
football's
foot.
men's
It's not, and it,
football.
and it and it is far from shit. It is not shit. It's a high quality product, and they play some really good football. Actually, what I quite enjoy about it is they actually to keep the ball on the floor a hell of a lot more for a start. There's a lot of
Yeah,
skill in the women's game. It's just, I think it's and I don't mean to be passionate. I think it's probably a little bit gentler. It's not as aggressive.
I was
They
going to say
don't.
temp. I was going to say
The
tempo.
tempo is a bit slower. It's not
Yeah,
as
but
yeah.
it's not the same. You can't compare men's football, women's football, because
They're
every
just not the
single
same.
time a men's team would take on a women's team, they would beat them. So then men go, oh, because the shit. It's
Yes,
not.
they
It's because it's a
do.
different. It's because it's a different game of
It's a different
football. It's a
game, and
complete. Yeah,
yeah, and I hate when people say you see it on social and you see it here and there. Oh, women have got no right to be on involved in the men's game. They've got no right to comment on it and be involved in it. It's like, well, hang on a second. Come on. Men are involved in the women's game and promote the women's game, and there's men managing the women's game. There's men commentators. So,
yeah,
if you, as a women's footballer, if you're retired or you're still playing, if you're good enough and you know the game enough, you're qualified to talk on it. I don't have any issue with that.
yeah,
I will never. It's. I think it's wrong to say she's a woman. She can't commentate on the men's game. Wrong. It's not about that for me. For me, it comes down to how good you are at your job. And
yeah,
you look at a women pundit the same as a man pundit. Say, are you good enough to what? Are you good at what you do? Do you know the
yeah,
game? Is what you're saying relevant? Is it interesting? Is it engaging?
yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, does it at all?
Are
At
you
all.
qualified,
Are you
articulate,
qualified? Are you
relevant?
articulate? Do you know the
Yeah,
game? And I
yeah,
and on that's and why that's pertinent is I think that should be the case for managers.
yeah,
So I think if in Wiegman's case and other managers' case, if you're good enough, and certainly Emma Hayes as well, if you're good enough and you're strong enough, by God, I think the pair of them are strong enough.
yeah,
Why not? Do you know what, mate? It could be an absolute revelation because they might be absolutely ruthless in the dressing room, and they
yeah,
might look. And do you know what? The men's game might learn something, and they might. I'm not saying they would, but who's to say that they might not come into it with a different perspective and actually get them playing in a way that takes away all this fucking about and rolling around like fucking idiots.
yeah,
Just what I quite enjoy about the women's game is they seem to have more respect for the etiquette of the game.
yeah,
I don't know if I'm being naive or just trying to be romantic there, but it feels like that. I watched Arsenal Everton last night. Thoroughly enjoyable game of football.
yeah.
No drama.
What I
No
would say
rolling
is
around.
what I would say
Nothing.
is if we've got any knuckle dragging fuckwit listeners and
Yeah.
viewers, we've just alienated you. Good, because we don't want you
Good.
anyway. So
Good.
if
Yes.
we think if what we've just said has rankled you or got you your blood boiling or whatever, or
Just
your
do
piss
one.
boiling, just do one. We're not
Do one
bothered,
because
right? So moving on.
we will support it. I've been to a good few women's games, and I make a point of I live in Merseyside. I would do the same if I was up north enough. I got the Merseyside derby at Goodison.
Yeah,
Absolutely brilliant. It's
yeah,
brilliant. It's a great atmosphere. I love women. The women's team at Everton is based at Goodison Park now, and it's only getting a few thousand. So it's sorry to see the old lady not full every week, but you do have to look at the long term picture.
yeah,
Hopefully, in 10, 15 years, the women's game's at a point where that stadium's full.
yeah.
It's rocking. And why shouldn't it be? There's been games that Arsenal have played, Barcelona have played, where they've been selling out stadiums, 60, 70, 80,000. Why can't that be the same every week elsewhere? The product's good
Exactly.
enough. The spectacle's good enough. The players are good enough. So I think you raised a really good point there, mate, and it's a good subject. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and that was just under respect for we've moved on from respect to intriguing now, mate. The intriguing bit covers one big subject really, and it's about injuries. There's been loads of high-profile injuries this
Yeah.
season, particularly towards the end of the season. Few ACLs. You mean Lamal?
Yeah.
Saka's been out a long time. Various other players. Is it the training? Is it the pitches or something else? The intriguing bit I've got is this, right? And I'm going to use three examples that are Middlesbrough related, but I want to know if anyone listening or watching has got the same thing at their club. So, players with an injury record go elsewhere and play all season. So, Middlesbrough had Matt Clark for about 2.5 seasons at Middlesbrough. And he was injured in and out, injured in and out, injured in and out, missed game, whatever. He's gone to Derby. He's been at Derby all season. Derby bought him from us. I wouldn't have sold Matt Clark either, by the way. I always thought when he did play for us, he was always
I
a
liked
solid,
him.
And,
Yeah,
he's won Player of the Year at Derby this season.
yeah,
He's missed one game this season at Derby, and that was through suspension, not through injury. He was injured for Borough more often than he was available, and that's why we sold him. He goes somewhere else, played a full season. The opposite of that, Leo Castledine, who was Chelsea player at the time, on loan at Huddersfield. He played every game on loan at Huddersfield for the first half of the season, every single game, didn't miss one. We've had him, we bought him from Chelsea and put him in the middle of the squad, and he's been injured more than he's been available through injury. Having gone a full half season playing every single game, he's been available 1 in 3. Alfie Jones signed from Hull last season for Middlesbrough. Superb footballer, superb
yeah.
centre half. He was probably our player of the season for the first 8 games. He was outstanding.
He was.
He played for Hull 2 or 3 seasons, I think. Hardly missed a game. We haven't seen him since October at Middlesbrough, and he's out for. Well, he was going to be out for the rest of the season. It was announced in March. So, what is it about players and locations and clubs? I've cited 3 there for Middlesbrough, right? So it might be training, might be pitches, it might be physicality, it might be God knows what. These injuries are all different, so it's not the same one. It's not ACL, it's not injuries caused by collisions and stuff. They're just muscle injuries or strains or whatever it might be. But there's 3 there: Matt Clark, Leo Castledine, and Alfie Jones. It's frustrating as hell because you sign somebody with a great record of, this guy plays every week. He's played every week for 5 years for his previous club. We'll get him and they'll play 5 weeks and we'll never see him again. Is that the same at other clubs? Do you think that's the same? Do you think other clubs are just as unlucky as we are? Do you think there's
Oh no, I think it's a thing. It's a really interesting point you raise because there's a lot of noise that's gone around over Everton in the years, and Everton's only. I'm only saying that because I have experience of it, and it could be the same with other clubs where fans do question what goes on behind the scenes. It's like, how is it these players have always got hamstring injuries? How is it that this player's always out, or when he comes back, he's injured quite quickly again? Is there something wrong with the recovery, or what have they done in terms of what's happened with that player? And it's an interesting one because my honest answer is I genuinely don't know. I'd like to think it's all coincidence, and like you touched on, they're all different injuries. It's all very random, so there's no kind of coincidence in terms of they're all this certain injury. But I do get your point. You do sometimes question: is it to do with backroom staff, how that injuries managed? Is it something that was slowly occurring that we've then allowed that player to play and make it worse? Or, in fairness to the clubs, was it something that happened where they had no control over it?
Yeah.
And it is a really interesting point because I have to say, Hannah Hart, I don't know. I don't know the intricacies of it. Whether it is just one of those random kind of throwaway comments where people go, "That happens a lot at this club," where all of a sudden they're really good, but then actually they come here and they're suddenly not that great. All I'd say that is kind of, especially at Everton, which kind of contradicts that, is we signed James Tarkowski because he was an ever-present and very consistent. He's been at Everton 4 seasons, and apart from an injury that was a clear injury on the pitch last season, he has been ever-present. So
Yeah.
some things are, you do sometimes look at it and think maybe it is just circumstance and
Flip of a coin.
the flip of a coin. I mean, the flip side of that is Tarkowski's been fucking woeful all season, but that's a different point entirely. I think it's a bit raw on the Alfie Jones one because I actually think he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a player.
He is.
I mean, he makes defending look so easy. He's so calm. I think he really complemented Callum Britton really well. Really well. I mean, Callum Britton's a really strong player, really good player, but I thought Alfie Jones next to him, they just seem to really just make each other stronger. I think we've really missed him. I think we've really missed having... Sounds cruel to say that. I don't mean it nasty because I love Dale Fry, but I think he's better than Dale. Way more, sorry, than Dale. I do. I think he's better than Dale.
Well, I'm gonna defend Dale Fry on the basis that I agree with you as a footballer. Dale Fry is a brilliant defender. He does what
Yeah,
he
yeah,
does what defenders do really
yeah. He
well.
does.
He
He does.
defends.
He
He
does.
defends and he gets rid of it. Alfie Jones is more of a Rolls Royce of a footballer rather than just a defender. So I get
Yeah,
that. I get that.
and that's the I'll clarify what I mean because I'm not trying to disrespect. I love Dale Fry,
Yeah.
Teesside through and through, and I'm with you. I think he's a great defender, and then watching him over the playoff game and everything else, I've been cheering him on left, right, and centre. I think the difference is he defends, but and he can he can be up there for a set piece. But other than that, he
Yeah.
either defends and he's up there for a set piece. There's not much in between. I think Alfie Jones gives you the bit in between,
Yeah.
and I
I
think
agree.
that's what we've missed a bit. And it, correct me if I'm wrong, mate. What is he injured with? Is he got an ACL? Is it?
No,
I don't even know what
it's
he's
not an
injured with.
ACL. I don't know what it is, but it's recurred a couple of times. So I don't think it's an ACL. What I'd say is, I'm just wondering for those who are listening or watching, write in the comments if you've got a reverse of
Yeah,
that, where you've signed someone with a great record of appearances, and suddenly for your club they're never available, or the other way of that is if got someone who was a sick note for you, he's gone somewhere else and played 3 seasons unbroken,
yeah,
unplayed. Matt, if you'd have said to me when we saw Matt Clark will play a full season with Derby, when he only missed one game through suspension, I'd have said, I don't think so. He felt like he was broken at Middlesbrough, and yet he's done exactly that, and he's proved to be a brilliant acquisition for Derby because he's solid, he's reliable, he's a good footballer. So I'm just intrigued to whether
yeah. It's a really interesting point you raise. I've thought about it a few times, and the conclusion I always came to is, unless you're in the nitty gritty and at the heart of it, so you can kind of like get some substance, it always kind of seems like it's just one of those things.
yeah,
But sometimes you do look at it and think, God, they get injured an awful amount. And you do sometimes think, is it their recovery? Is it the identification of something that's perhaps been underlying and they've just been allowed to play? Or is it literally just seriously the look of it?
the one that'll get me is Riley McGree, who's played for Middlesbrough for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah,
He's made of glass. He's great when he's playing. He plays 3 games and he's injured. He plays 2 more games, he's injured. Australia come call him for, friendlies and international games. He's suddenly available on a plane and go to Australia. But nonetheless, I'm not really having to go at him for that. What I'm saying is he's had a really stop-start career at Middlesbrough. If he'd have been fit for 3 seasons, we'd have had a really great footballer in our hands. But he's so
yeah,
stop-start. If he leaves Middlesbrough in the summer and goes somewhere else, I'll be mightily pissed off if they get a full season out of him. But they probably will. You know
yeah.
what I mean? They probably will.
Well, and I would agree because the annoying thing is he was sensational that season that we probably looked like we were going to go up. The season that Pom scored was in his plum,
Yeah.
and we got beaten by Coventry in the playoffs. I think was it 2023?
Yeah.
It was 2023. I thought he had a fabulous season that season, and he still had a few blips then, but
He did.
he was. I think he was. You really saw the play that he can, and there's been snippets this season, and you do look at him and think, God, if you could just stay fit,
Yeah.
you could be unbelievable. So yeah, it's a real. That's a great. It's you can see it's really got to be thinking now because Matt Clark is one of those. Do you know what? And I'm probably going to sound disrespectful. I don't mean to because I really like him and I've always been a big advocate of him when he was at Borough. I loved him. He's not a fancy artistic footballer. He just does what you
No.
need to do really well. And
His
I'm
nickname
really
was his nickname was Baldinho, wasn't it?
yeah,
Which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Baldinho,
that's brilliant.
Baldinho, brilliant.
But
Yeah,
I kind of really like it for Derby because he was an ex-Derby player. He almost feels like Derby
yeah,
through and through. And
the right fit.
yeah, right fit. And I'm really pleased he's been playing really well. And do you know what? I know Middlesbrough Derby got the history, but I have nothing against Derby fans. They've
No,
been
I
through the
don't.
mill, and to just miss out last game of the season, they were there or thereabouts. They're doing good things, got a good manager, and I think they could be there next year. But as we
But
always say with the championship, mate,
controversially, can I just say that's all down to Steve Gibson? Thank you. Derby fans have now switched off in their droves, but
and
it's all down to Steve Gibson that Derby are in the position
he
they're in right
cleansed
now.
you
They
out.
will not
You
like that
absolutely
at
are. Yeah, they
all.
won't. He won't. But you know what? I say they could do good next season we always say this, but the
You never know.
Championship is such an unusual beast
Yeah,
that whereas in the Premier you can kind of say, well, obviously they'll do well next year,
yeah,
and sometimes you can predict the clubs that might kick on, and there's always a few unpredictables that are, there just is. I don't think anyone really. I mean, Spurs were on a decline, but I'm not quite sure everyone really envisaged what Spurs would do. But the Championship, I think, is unique in that it literally does reset, and you
yeah.
really don't know until it kicks
Exactly,
in.
exactly. That's under intriguing stuff, right? Intriguing stuff. I've done that. I've got a list of why and what the fuck stuff. Really, I've got 20 minutes to cover this. So, the first one I heard today that Mexico, as a football federation, want to follow the MLS model, have 18 teams, no promotion and no relegation. Now, they've been doing that since COVID in 2020 for financial reasons. It was on a 6-year license to say that if you finished bottom or in the relegation places, you paid a fine, which was distributed to the leagues below you to
Yeah,
spread the money.
yeah,
It was a temporary solution. It's not that temporary, 6 years, like, is it? But
yeah.
they've now voted to follow the MLS model. 18 teams protected, no promotion, no relegation. Mexican football, it's finished. Must be. That's shite.
Terrible. Yeah, and I understand the financial repercussions and obligations and all that kind of stuff, but it's like, really? So, what's your logic to that? Really, from a skeptical point of view, my take would be, is this not what you were angling for all along? And you've just literally played the long game.
Yeah,
So all of a sudden, you'll now have a closed league and they won't pay fines and stuff anymore. That'll benefit the lower league. You'll just have a closed shop, even
yeah.
though most of those teams will be abjectly shit.
And I would
So
say, by the way, Mexican football is probably, I don't know enough about it. It strikes me as a very passionate country for football.
absolutely,
So to
yeah,
remove the passion of
yeah,
promotion relegation is
yes.
criminal. It's criminal.
And this, I was gonna get to that. I think the biggest difference is in America. There's been a level of interest in football,
Yeah,
soccer. There was some really good merit in terms of the NASL, in terms of what they tried to do, the slight tweaks they made to the game, the characters they brought in, and what they brought. And it had serious potential before its time. And it could have been great. And hopefully, an offshoot of that will be great again, courtesy of our friend, Mr. Michaels, if you're listening, Scott. Um, Hope you will, mate. Love you to bits. But Mexican football, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Their passion for football, their experience in football, the players they've produced that have gone into play in Europe over years,
yeah,
it's a completely different ball game to America, mate. It's almost like being ridiculously disrespectful to that fan base.
yeah.
I'd be really interested to see what the backlash to that would be, or I'd be worried if fans were in support of that. I would kind of look at it and think if fans of those clubs that are in the kind of locked league are a supporter of that, I'd find that to be a tremendous shame. It's almost like you're disrespecting
Yeah.
the heritage and of your own football. Like it's like in our country, we don't want that. As soon as the Super League was announced, all the fans were up in arms. They recognised what we had and how special it was. And Mexican,
I'll tell you who does want it though. Spurs want that at the moment, don't they? Sorry, Spurs
sorry,
fans.
Spurs,
You
yeah,
would love no relegation, wouldn't you? And so would West Ham fans, I suspect at the moment. I think West Ham fans are probably looking forward to coming down to the Championship if they do come down, because they've been there before in fairly recent history. Spurs won't know what's hit them if they do come down, will they?
it's a really good shout, mate. I think I, it, as also being an Everton fan, that worried me. How many times did I say to you, if we
Oh,
go down, we could sink like a stone because just from the shock, just
yeah,
from the sheer shock and the fact that you'd be presented with this league that just plays football a different way.
You'd have
And
the equivalent of football sepsis, wouldn't you? Really,
yeah,
toxic shock, really.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
think it's a genuine thing. And I agree with you. I think Spurs would. You'd like to think Spurs would just sail to the top, be fine. But I don't think so, because I think most of their players would be sold in a quick fire sale and off they'd go. But they've got relegation clauses as well. I
yeah,
agree. I think West Ham would cope with that situation a lot better. They'd probably hold most of their players. They would lose some players naturally. Um, but yeah, I also, and I'll be careful how I phrase this because I don't want to be flippant, because obviously their fans would want to stay in the Premier League. But I think their fans are so disillusioned with how things have gone over the last few years. Maybe they might welcome just a bit of a reset, if
yeah,
that also helps reset things behind the scenes, because I know that they're really unhappy with how the club's run. They're not happy with the stadium, which sadly is probably not going to change anytime soon, or the makeup of how that stadium is designed.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't wish. I think you're absolutely right, but closed shop stuff is just an abomination. If anyone's trying to follow the MLS, that's deeply worrying, isn't it? And
Oh,
Mexico and
yeah,
Mexican football has got a much bigger tradition than the MLS has got. And I agree with you; their fans are much more knowledgeable and passionate in terms of just the history of how long they've been involved in football. So
yeah.
to then mirror an MLS league is just sacrilege. Everything that's wrong.
Absolutely,
That is an absolute what the fuck, mate. It really is.
it is. I've got another one, and this is about relegation. And this is a couple of weeks old. I meant to mention it a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get round to it. We didn't find the space on the podcast. Alex Crook, who is a so-called broadcaster on TalkSPORT. And when I say so-called, most of the people on TalkSPORT are so-called broadcasters.
Oh,
He had a rant when Burnley got relegated a couple of weeks ago. So Burnley were confirmed as relegated 3-4 weeks previously. Scott Parker, I would say, by the way, I'm not a big fan of Scott Parker. If you ask Fulham fans and Bournemouth fans, they're not either. I know they came up last season with 100 points and they only let in 16 goals, but his football's shit. He's not good enough for the Premier League. He's never been good enough for the Premier League anywhere he's been. He's a really easy appointment for people in the Championship to go, let's say Scott Parker. It's not about Scott Parker. It's not about Burnley, really, but Burnley they've come up, and it's fair to say some of the things Alex Crook said are probably right. They've come up and they've not really looked like they've tried. They've not really looked like they've put the effort in. They've not really
yeah,
looked like they've a bit like when Norwich used to do it all the time. Norwich used to come up, oh yeah, we're Norwich, yeah, but we're happy to go down because we're not going to spend any money. Burnley have done that. Alex
yeah,
Crook, as a journalist on a national radio, sports radio, ranted and said that as a result of Burnley going up and down, they should be banned from getting promoted for 5 years because they're just taking up a space that somebody else could take up, and they're devaluing the Premier League. Guess who Alex Crook supports? Man U fucking United. Elitist
yeah.
prick. What an absolute. He has no concept of the Championship. He has no concept of clubs below the elite top 5 or 6, and yet he's spouting shit like that on TalkSport.
It's
You, should,
yeah,
you shouldn't be allowed to be promoted for the next 5 years. How's that going to work then, you dickhead?
exactly that, dickhead. Basically, I mean, shame on Talksport for allowing that to be even publicized and just given a voice. I mean, the guy's a fucking tool. I mean, whether you like Burnley or not, and whether you think what they've done is deliberate or not making an effort or obvious, sorry, just look at the wider fucking picture, Alex, will you? It's like these clubs, whether you like it or not, can't compete. And whether you could look at it and be more critical, go, well, Burnley should do what Sunderland have done and just recruit better, and then they'd have a better team and they'd be able to push on more. He's almost alluding to the fact that Burnley deliberately weren't trying, were just there for the money and were happy to go down. That absolutely isn't the case. It's
No.
just that their model of what they do in the EFL to try and get to the Premier League doesn't then work. I'm not being funny, but Scott Parker and Vincent Kompany are absolutely chalk and cheese. And Vincent Kompany's way of playing football didn't work
Yeah.
because they couldn't recruit the right players. And I'm not being
He's
funny,
he's the
but
thing. He's the thing. can you recruit players when you're based in Burnley? Because Middlesbrough, when they're in the Premier League, if they weren't paying prime wages, you couldn't
Serious
recruit people
money.
geographically because people
Yeah.
don't want to live in Burnley or live in Middlesbrough or live in even Newcastle struggle because it's not
Newcastle
London.
still struggle. They still find it difficult. And even players they've got now, like Tonali and Gordon and stuff, they say they love playing for the club and they're happy there. But, even players going back 20, 30 years, they didn't stay there that long.
No,
And some of it is where they are based, rightly or wrongly, and you can criticise if you like, but that is an issue sometimes. It's just such, as a journalist and someone who's actually got a voice and more traction than the likes of me and you have got, you just look at him and think, how the fuck are you having a voice and people are paying attention to what you say?
yeah,
You said it, you summed it up. The guy's a fucking tool. He's a
yeah,
dickhead. That is not a solution. That's basically saying, oh, so if you come up and you don't try, you're basically banned from coming up again. Well, how does that work, Alex?
yeah.
Fucking tell us how it works, pal. Come on.
Mm.
What's your solution when they're in the EFL? How does that work? Come on. So the repercussions of that is, what are Burnley going to do for the next 5 years? I'll tell
Yeah.
you what will happen. They'll go out of business. That's
Mm.
what will happen because no one will go and play for them. They
But he
won't
won't
get
care. He
money.
won't care because he supports Man United because he's an elitist prick, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's he's like that other tit on fucking TalkSPORT. What's he called? The guy who supports, he's the guy from Essex who's a Man United fan. What's he
Oh yeah,
called?
no, yeah, I don't know, yeah, yeah,
Jesus Christ. I mean, the stuff he comes out with, I mean, it's just talk sport, isn't it? But
it
it's like,
is.
Alex, he isn't do us all the, and the funny thing is, if you look on socials, most people recognise that he's a fucking tool and don't
Yeah.
take anything he says that seriously.
But the fact he's still got an audience, hasn't he? That's the
Is
problem.
worrying, mate. It's
Yeah,
deeply
yeah.
worrying. I mean, you just don't come out with that kind of, and if you're coming up with that for clicks and likes, you shouldn't be a journalist. But if
No.
you actually think that is something that should be implemented, just give your fucking head a wobble, go and look in the mirror for a while, and then literally stick your head up your ass and fuck off while you're at it.
He's the thing, though. You've just respected him by calling him a journalist. I called him a so-called journalist. He's not a journalist. He's a
He's not a
so-called journalist,
journalist.
mate. No, no,
He's
no.
not a
I've got
journalist.
one. I've got one more to finish with, right? And I'm conscious of time as ever. We could talk forever. We know we can. For those who don't know, Dom and I catch up on when I'm on journeys from sort of distant travels, and I've often rung him. I'm setting off from somewhere in bloody Kent or somewhere, driving back to York. I've finished conversations. I'm pulling on my drive, so there's nothing stopping us going on apart from the fact we want to do it
We can
about an hour
talk, mate,
ago.
can't
We can
we?
talk,
Yeah,
can't we? Right. So
yeah.
this is the last one for the day. It's under the what the fuck, or it could be under intriguing, really. FIFA are thinking of making it mandatory across the entire football world to play one homegrown player for every team in every game. Okay, so the question I've got is, what problem is that actually solving? None.
It's not.
Who will it favour? Bigger clubs with more money in their academies. What a shock. And what is actually homegrown anyway? So is homegrown they have to come through your academy, or is homegrown that they have to be born within the postcode of your state? What
Yeah.
an absolute pile of shite that is. It's just, I'll tell you what, someone sat in FIFA's headquarters. I've had a really good idea. Why don't we just introduce a mandatory requirement to play a homegrown player in every club for every game across the world? How's that going to work? And who does it benefit? It's bullshit.
It's absolute crap. I mean, to be honest, Everton's academy, they recruit and take players from all over the country, if
Yeah,
not all over the world. So, they will have local talent that they've got that have been born in Merseyside and, are either Everton or Liverpool fans. Harrison Armstrong is a prime case in point, which is lovely to see. Anthony Gordon was the same. Well, he was a Liverpool fan. Wayne Rooney, the
yeah.
list is there. I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong if anyone's out there wants to correct me, I think Middlesbrough is different. They can recruit from an area, but I do think they recruit from the northeast.
Oh yes, the northeast. Yeah.
It's the
So I mean,
northeast, so theirs is different. They do structure theirs
are
differently.
you homegrown at Middlesbrough if you were born in Sunderland? I don't think you are. I don't you say
You're
you were.
not, but at least but at least you kind of, it's more homegrown than Everton can say because there'll be players at Everton that have, and a lot of clubs do it. They'll sign players that have been playing first team football for, lower league clubs. And I do
Yeah,
sometimes look at that and think, why are you doing that? Because some of these players have actually, made first team for League One, League Two clubs, and then they come to Everton under 21s or under 18s. You're like, you're never going to play.
yeah.
So, um, are you, and you do worry and think, are you coming for the money? You must be coming for a bigger contract, better money, and think you're going to play with better coaches, better players. But I just don't think you can ever beat playing first team football for where you are and
No.
progressing like that.
You
So
look at Hayden Hackney and you look at Dale Fry at Middlesbrough. They go through a brick
exactly,
wall for the club, wouldn't they?
exactly. You just can't buy that, can you? You
But you can't
can't.
force it
You
either. You
can't
can't
force it
force it.
either. Exactly right. So I agree with you. One player, and it has to come through your academy. And if this is feet, and do you know what? I might be wrong. They might come around and go, actually, it is one that's homegrown. Well, it can't be, because if it was homegrown, they'd have to kind of change it so that your academies basically had homegrown players. Because let's be honest, if that player comes through your academy and they were literally poached from, I don't know, QPR's first team at
Yeah,
18, is that homegrown? No. You were
no,
buying that talent in,
yeah,
pure and simple. So you'd have to change the academy rules. But then again, it's like we all want to see even just one player come through. So you
yeah.
could say there is some merit in that, because it's every club wants to see some homegrown talent come through. Well, if they're not homegrown, it kind of defeats the point. But to your point, one really isn't enough, because it is just a token gesture. It's not changing anything.
It
What you
doesn't solve a problem that exists, though, does it either?
No,
The problem doesn't exist, so why are they creating a solution to something that doesn't
it
exist
doesn't
anyway?
exist. It's almost like trying to say, it's literally like trying to highlight and say, look, look what we've introduced to football. They've now got to have someone that's local to that area. So it really means that football is community driven. It's all
Sure.
about the community. It's not. It's all just. It's
Money.
smoke and mirrors. It's just bullshit. Absolute
Yeah,
bullshit. If you wanted it to be really like it used to be, you'd have to go back to 40s and 50s, when the bulk of players that played for those teams were from those areas. And
yeah.
even those great players still transferred and went to different clubs. But the heart of that was those players were from that community. But the game's completely changed, hasn't it?
It's a long time since the Lisbon Lions, and on that subject, we'll leave it, mate. Listen,
Exactly. Yeah.
listen, we could talk about stuff all day. I just threw that in, just thought, I've seen that, and I thought, I don't understand why they're
Great
doing it.
show. Great
It's like
show.
it's
Yeah.
literally trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist to tick a box or get some clicks and likes. So here's what we think of FIFA. Fuck off. We all hate them anyway. Anyway, so moving on.
Yeah.
Right. So great as ever. I think that's another parental responsibility bloody one,
Yeah,
Dom.
I've
We
definitely
will
been on
have
it
to
the last two. Yeah, I've been on it the
we
last
will
two episodes, haven't I?
we will
Yeah.
have to stop that. So that's been respectful, intriguing, and what the fuck stuff. There's always something to talk about with us. And it's been in conjunction with our fan support specialists, Huddle Up, which we've mentioned a number of times, and they're providing well-being, wellness, and mental health support for supporters through clubs. Um, Next episode's 49. We're almost getting there to the half century, and that's gone
Yeah.
really quickly. I've put here to be confirmed because we're recording this on the 14th of May, and this is going out on the 25th of May. So we'll be recording episodes into early June. We need to be closer to June to do that, so we're on topic. And there'll be plenty of things kick off between now and then.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but without further ado, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, all your favourite platforms, YouTube, all the favourite audio platforms for your podcasts. Please get involved. Please give us some comments. Please, if there's anything that we've said that you like, don't like, that you've got to contend with, or you want to just sort of question us on, please feel free to do so. We will always look to get back to you.
Thank you.
And that's been the podcast for this week. Dom, great as ever. Lovely to see you. And you're going to America between now and the next time we record. So safe travels in America. Try not to get rubber gloved at the ice border controls. And we'll see you when you get back, mate.
Thanks, mate. I just hope we get in. That's the first and foremost. And yes, it should be an eventful trip. We'll hopefully enjoy it. And yes, we'll see you fresh face on the other side, ready to record another one. So yeah, see you soon, mate. Really
If a
enjoyed
li-
this.
if they've listened to the podcast, mate, you're probably going to get stopped at border control. Anyway, leaving that, moving on. Safe travels, mate.
Thanks, mate.